You'll never guess where we are.
You'll never guess. Well, I don't know where we are, so I hope you can guess.
We're in the bush somewhere, having a bit of a hike. Yeah. And we always love to stop and have a chat as the inspiration hits us. So today we're talking a little bit about the self-awareness thing, because most of us talk about wanting to be self-aware and to know who we are and how we behave in certain ways, and hope that we'll catch ourselves and we'll break the habit of all those things that we do dysfunctionally that either cause upset in our life, cause drama and distraction, or actually just plain old stops us from getting what we would love.
Yeah, and so there's just a lot of kind of reactionary stuff that we buy into and get involved in. Anything from the way we're thinking about what's going on to what we say, or how we react and that sort of thing, and then usually regret having done so afterwards, or feel guilty, or whatever it is. But also ultimately we don't get the outcomes we're looking for, and we wonder, what's going on? What's gone wrong here? Where I'm experiencing these outcomes in relation to maybe it's friendships or family or just others in the world, and why is it? And we're kind of baffled by it. So we wanted to talk a bit about the unconscious dynamics that kicking around when we find ourselves sort of baffled by undesirable outcomes, and some of the things that we can become more consciously aware of to kind of do things differently and actually get different outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things is most of us are aware when we're doing things dysfunctionally. You might be yelling at the kids, and in the back of your mind you're like, oh, I really shouldn't be yelling at the kids right now. Or you're about to say something to your spouse, or you're saying something to your spouse, and you go halfway through the sentence, it's like, I know this is not going to go well, but I'm going to need to finish what I'm saying here for whatever reason. And we end up with an outcome that's not so optimal. And then we go away, we might let the whole thing sort of blow over a bit, and we end up in self-analysis mode. What did I do wrong there? How could I do better next time? And we may even start to manipulate ourselves into, what could I have said better, or how could I have really got that across to them, and these sorts of things. And really, it's just that we're in the whole wrong orientation. Even if you think you're trying to do better, you're not in the right structure to actually create better outcomes for yourself, because where you're coming from is the wrong orientation. And a lot of the time it's same old, because we're just running the same old patterns that we've always run. And we're actually addicted to it, aren't we? We get really addicted to running those patterns, or those behaviours, or saying those things, or buying into a story like, oh, I've always got to set boundaries, and all these sorts of things,
Yeah, and the addiction can sort of stem from more than one thing, more than one area. So it can be an addiction to the fact that it keeps me safe. If I stay stuck in this, albeit undesirable way of doing things, where I don't like the outcome, but it's very familiar, and it's known territory. So egoically, we like it a lot, because it means that we don't actually have to kind of step into the unknown, and therefore, risk our survival as far as the ego is concerned. So we become addicted to staying in the unknown. Staying in the known, which is at a level is comfortable. It's safe. We rattle around in there. We tell ourselves we hate it and we want to do better next time, and we wonder why we continually create the same outcomes. So that's an addiction to safety. There's also...
Well, I've got another example. Yeah. Someone who might be addicted to feeling appreciated, and they go about it a really dysfunctional way. So they might start an argument with someone, for example, and they'll get right in the throes of it, and it's almost like it feels like it's going the opposite end, but they're doing it and they're orchestrating it so that they know at some point there's going to be a make-up point where they'll actually make it up to the other person, and it'll all come together, and then all of a sudden this pendulum swung the other way, and now we're in a state of feeling appreciated, or that you were able to fix something or whatever, and then that level of that's like, oh yeah, I've got my appreciation fix right here and now from that external source. And again, that's another dysfunctional way, and we actually orchestrated that intricately. We don't even recognize that's what's going on.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
and I mean, another aspect to that is feeling a deeper sense of connection as well. We might be feeling like, we're not
whatever
feeling
your
real
addiction
connected.
is.
Yeah, that's it. there's another interesting one. I think it's cool to kind of come to understand is about the cells in the body, you know, and the chemical releases that we get, endorphins and oxytocin and these various
Dopamine.
chemicals.
Yep.
Dopamine.
Yep.
When we have a hit, if you like. So, you know, drama and dilemma can actually give us a release of a certain cocktail of drugs in the body that we get, and we feel like, that's better, you know. And it's because we have an addiction to the release of those chemicals, and we know egoically what sorts of things we need to set up and run to create the very drama that allows that to happen. So initially it starts out as a mental thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a, well, this meets my need on some level, and then eventually it starts to become like this sense of the cells need that combination of cocktail, as you're saying. So, and like if you're an adrenaline junkie and you really enjoy getting out and adventuring and doing some rock climbing or you know, paragliding or you know, something that really gets your adrenaline going, it's like, oh yeah, that was awesome. But you haven't had that for a while, and you're not getting a chance to get out there and express yourself fully in functional ways. And then all of a sudden your spouse is there available for some sort of a fight. Guess what? You'll pick one. Yeah, and you'll spike the adrenaline and you'll get the cortisol, and it feels shit because you don't like what you're saying or what's going on between you or whatever, but you're still getting the hit, so the cells don't care. And then, of course, like on the other side of an adrenaline hit, you finish the rock climbing and you've landed, and then at the end of the day you sit around with some mates and you have a good mag, don't you? You have a good chat or whatever your thing is. That's the natural and functional way. But with the spouse, it's like, oh no, let me make that up to you, and then you've conquered that, and it's all made up, and then we're sitting around being all lovey-dovey again. You know, same thing, different cloak. One's functional, one's very dysfunctional, and we're just buying into the call of the cells. The cells are just like a sugar addict or an alcoholic is going, oh, I need my hit of sugar, I need my hit of alcohol. Whatever it is, it's asking for that combination. So it ends up, instead of just being a mental thing you need to overcome, it's actually a physiological thing. So your whole body's set up physically against you, and you're trying to break this habit, and you wonder why, oh, I'm back into that cycle yet again. How do we get here again? It must be me, or it must be the relationship. Maybe we're not a match, or whatever the scenario is that you can overlay this. It might not be a relationship. It might be your work. It might be different things that you like to try. It might be you've moved house 75 times and you can't find a place that you like to live or something. Yeah. Who knows, right? But it's all because we don't know who we really are and how to self-reference and get what we really need from ourselves and be connected to the higher source, and then go, actually, the adrenaline thing doesn't really matter, because when I'm expressing my heart fully, I feel fulfilled on all levels. And it may take a while to break that habit of going for the full adrenaline hit and then the oh, thank God I survived that thing, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's patterns. And so we'd love to share, you know, some circuit breakers for being able to start to get those patterns broken, so that you can start to explore different ways of doing things.
Something just fell out of the tree that broke my pattern.
That broke it. And start to therefore experience different results, you know, to the norm. And so this is the topic of self-awareness. And we often think, oh yeah, I've heard it, you know, yeah, self-awareness, we bandy it around, but the truth of the matter is it's super important, particularly for conscious creators like yourself, to know when you're in a dysfunctional structure, to know when you're just about to head down a path and you know where it's going. And it's that time that as soon as you identify, this is familiar territory, but I'm really charged emotionally, I'm pumped and psyched and ready to go. That's where we then use our will, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's all well and good to have the self-awareness, but then if you don't do anything to change it, or you try and beat yourself up so you'll do better next time, it doesn't help you. It really doesn't. It just makes it worse, actually. It empowers that dysfunctional side of you. So a couple of really simple circuit breakers would, first of all, when you notice that you're noticing, give yourself a pat on the back, because the fact that you notice that you're noticing is a good thing, because otherwise we're just running around, and we don't call it unconscious for nothing, do we?
No.
We're just running around unconsciously doing things and then trying to pick up the pieces on the other side. But the fact that you notice that you're yelling at the kids, or you've started an argument with your spouse, or you're not doing what you need to be doing, you're involved in distraction or whatever, great, give yourself a tick. Step one.
That's right. And the next thing is take a breath. Again, yawn, take a breath. What's that going to do for me? It's a big deal, because when you take a breath, where you would otherwise have launched into something, said something, done something, thought something, whatever, that breath it represents circuit breaker to your pattern.
Yeah, it's a big enough gap, isn't it? It's a big enough gap between what you got triggered by, and I don't mean trigger by, oh my God, just whatever has set you off on your course, even if it's just your cells starting to call out for something. There's a gap between when you get that stimulus and then the response or the reaction that you give it. All you need is a tiny little space just to open up a space of unknown and doing something different. And the breath gives you that.
Yeah, it does. And make an inquiry. Like, none of this needs to take a long time. It can be on the hop while you're in a conversation. You're the person that you're having the conversation with has served the ball, if you like, and you're at the receiving end. You do not need to hit it back. So when you take the breath, and just know that in any given situation, there's always a higher perspective and a lower perspective, and having the intention in that moment that I don't know what it is, but I don't want to do the same thing again. And so I feel like fighting right now. I feel like doing what I typically do. I'm going to take a breath, and I'm going to be open and with the intention of what's the higher perspective here. I know there is one, and I'm just open to it. Don't know what it is. And that space, you've broken the pattern. So two things happen in that moment that's really important to be aware of, and it's powerful, is you haven't put the power into your pattern and reinforced your underlying assumption that you've been believing unconsciously to be true that's got you in this situation for a start. So there's no power going there, because now you're in the observer mode. And also you've opened yourself up to receiving new insights and new information that are relative to what's going on from a higher perspective. So, you're no longer closed off with the I know how it is here thing going on. And so that's a big deal too. So see how much has happened just because you took a breath and you had an intention to know the higher perspective in this moment.
And here's the thing, if you don't get anything from your higher perspective, you go, oh look, I got nothing. Linda and Craig are full of shit, I didn't get anything. Well, there's actually even something you can do from there. It's like, do nothing. Just do nothing. If you do nothing, like that even means don't withdraw. Like if you would normally, instead of initiate a fight, go and withdraw and hide away or whatever, don't do that. Just do nothing. Just be with what's going on and just keep the observation going. And at worst case scenario, do anything other than what your egoic agenda is telling you to do. So if it says, oh, you must answer back, or you must tell them how it is, you must tell them that they're wrong and you're right, or you must withdraw, do anything. You could do a headstand. You could sing a song. You could go for a drive that you wouldn't normally go for. Whatever it is, just do something different. And the higher perspective will come to you. So with some practice, eventually, as Craig said, you'll get it like that. It's like, oh, I've got the higher perspective. This is awesome. But you don't even need to start there. Just do nothing or do anything different to what you would normally do. Just do something extraordinary. Break that neurological pattern. Start to break the addiction of the cells at the cellular level, asking for that craved cocktail, and you can go from there. Yeah,
brilliant. So make it a new sort of deal with yourself. That actually, what I do from now on is I'm looking to break my pattern when it's getting started, and as early in the piece as I can, and then practice that. That's how I roll now. I don't go down those paths. I don't indulge that stuff now. So you don't have to be some superhero. You're just doing simple things like what we've just described, and doing them as often as you can, think to implement them. And it's that practice that makes them then second nature. And you'll see very early in the piece, you don't even have to gain any massive mastery here, but what you will notice is very early in the piece, your results are going to change. There's going to be some magical shifts will take place that don't involve you controlling others or even manipulating yourself, but yet things have changed and for the better, and I'm loving it. And it's like, often it's so magical that we don't connect that change with those things that you've chosen to implement. But that's the sort of power of what we're talking about here. So,
if you've watched this right through to the end, well done.
Well done.
That's follow through, right there and then. You've received incredible value today. So make sure you put in the comments or the chat or whatever platform this ends up on. Just give us a comment, give us a hoy, and say, hey, I followed through.
Brilliant.
And we look forward to seeing you on the next one.
See you there.